In this video I'm going to show you the Mary Blair brush set for Procreate. Welcome to Stave Draws. I'm Stave, a Dutch illustrator and animator, and I always have been a very big fan of the Disney artist Mary Blair, and she, painted in a certain style. And I've made other videos about it and about the books of Mary Blair, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below so that you can, see those videos. But I always wanted to create a brush set, that you could really paint in the style of Mary Blair. And Mary Blair was a Disney artist, and she worked on a lot of films, and she's most famous of her work she did for It's a Small, Small World. She started out at the Disney Studios and she painted more in a watercolor style, the same as her husband, Lee Blair. And her style changed during a Goodwill trip. The Disney Studios was invited for a Goodwill trip to South America. And from that trip, 2 films were made. 3 Caballeros and Saludos Amigos. And in that time she really changed her style because it became a lot more colorful, and she started to paint with opaque watercolors or gouache. And I really wanted to create a set of brushes for Procreate so that I could paint in the style of Mary Blair. And in this video I'm just gonna go over the whole brush set and what you can do with it. The Stave Draws brush set is now available on Gumroad. It includes 18 custom brushes to paint in the style of Mary Blair. Once you've bought the brush set, you can download it. It will take you to a next screen. Tap on the 3 dots in the upper right corner and then tap on Export. Then choose Copy to Procreate. The brushes will be imported into Procreate. So in this Stave Mary Blair brush set, there's 18 brushes, and I'm just going to go over all of the brushes, and it starts out with the Stave 6B pencil, and that's just a pencil you can draw with, and it also has a tilted function where you can cover bigger areas. Then there's the Stave Dip Pen Blair, and that's more of an ink brush, but it got a little bit of a structure to it, so it isn't too clear, and this is great, to do some details in a painting and use different colors with it and still have some of a structure to it. Then there's the Stave Gouache Blair Opaque, and this is the basic gouache brush just to fill out bigger shapes, and it also blends, when you put the opacity lower you can blend the colors, but it is a tapered brush, so when you press softer and harder, the harder you press on your Apple Pencil, the bigger the brush will get. Then there's the Stave Charcoal Blair Taper, and that's also a tapered brush because Mary Blair also used a lot of pastels and more grainy stuff in their artwork, and this is great, if you have already made a flat surface, then you can use this brush, to get some structure into your artwork. This is the Stave Charcoal Blair Block Rough, and that's a brush, a very big brush to, for backgrounds. If you want to do a quick gradient with a lot of texture to it, you can use this brush. And if it's a little bit too rough, I've also made another brush which is called the Stave Charcoal Blair Block, and this has a softer grain to it. So with this, you can really quickly make a structured background. Then there's the Stave Grain Stucco Blair Taper, and usually I use this for clouds. You know, when you press harder, it will get bigger, and just put a gradient in it, you know, and in this way you can, you know, make very quick clouds. You can also use this in a tree. So if you have a tree, first block it out. Set it to a smaller size, and then with a darker color, you know, you can create some nice effects with it. I've also made another brush which is called the Stave Grain Stucco Blair, and that isn't tapered, so that is for bigger areas you want to have sort of a dry brush technique with. Then there's the Stave Damp Blair Taper, and that's a smaller brush. You know, if you want to do blend out the colors a little bit more, this is a bit of a wet brush, so it also picks up the color underneath. Because sometimes she also used watercolors, or she used the watercolors opaquely, and later on she started to use gouache. But you know, on paper you can, you know, mix these two media. Then there's the Stave Chalk Blair Taper, and that's also a grainy brush with a nice structure to it. The harder you press, the bigger the brush will get. Then there's the Stave Blair Splatter, and the splatter brush, on paper she just used a toothbrush, had some gouache on it, and then sprayed it onto the paper. And this is the same effect, and you can make it as big as you want, so it just will splatter, and the smaller you get, the finer the nozzle will get. And you can also use this as sort of a dry brush, or you know, just draw fairy dust. Then there's the Stave Blair Flat, and the Stave Blair Flat is, you know, to cover bigger areas, and it is a smooth brush, so you can, you know, really paint out a background fast and make a nice gradient in it. And with all brushes, if you also use the smudge tool, you know, you can smudge it out. Then there's the Stave Gouache Blair Round, and that's also a good brush, you know, to fill out some shapes, and it has a bit of structure, so if you put it lightly, it is a tapered brush. When you also use it with the smudge tool, you know, you can really blend your colors. Then there's the Stave Gouache Blair Wash Taper, and you can see the shape of the brush is very structured, so it is a structured brush. So it's a bit of a dry brush, but this is great, you know, for blending stuff. I've made the same one, and that isn't tapered, so this is to cover bigger areas. You know, if you just want to cover bigger areas, you can, you know, really blend it well. and still have a bit of a structure in your art. Then there's the Stave Gouache Blair Dry Taper, and she used a lot of dry brush techniques, to get some structure. And this is a tapered brush, so if you paint lightly, it's smaller, and the harder you press, the bigger the brush will get. I also made the Stave Gouache Blair Dry, and that one is the same brush, but it's not tapered. And, that's just to cover bigger areas. And the last brush is the Stave Gouache Blair Big Wash. And with that, you can cover bigger areas. And interesting thing about this brush is when you keep your Apple Pencil on the screen while painting, it will fade out. In order to recreate these brushes, I did some studies of Mary Blair paintings. This is a painting she did for Peter Pan. What's so interesting about her style is that she uses quite different color schemes. This is a painting or preliminary sketch she did for Saludos Amigos, and it has, I think it's Panchito, Donald Duck and Joe Carioca. And you can see that the structured brushes work really well, so I used almost all of the brushes in this brush set. This is a cover I painted for the cover of a newspaper about books, and it was A3 size, and the brushes work really well for print. The Mary Blair brush set is now available on my Gumroad, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, because each time I upload a new video, you get a notification. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!